two ways of testing to find out, to see if you've been exposed to the novel coronavirus. The first is to test for the presence of the virus. That's generally with a swab of your nose or throat. That's the kind of test that has been so hard to come by in this country. That's a test that actually tests for the virus, for the antigen itself. The second way is to test your blood for antibodies to the virus. So if you got the virus and your body fought it off, your body made and used coronavirus antibodies in that fight. And with a relatively simple, cheap, quick blood test, doctors can tell whether you have those antibodies and therefore whether or not you've been exposed. Today, the UK said they would try to go ahead with antibody testing of the British population on a mass scale. They said they've already ordered 3.5 million antibody tests, and they're in the process of ordering millions more. The advantage to antibody testing, as I mentioned, is in part speed and ease. Compared to the kinds of tests that look for the virus itself, antibody testing is quick, relatively easy, and relatively cheap. It therefore does have the possibility of being used on a mass scale, which could be helpful. It could reveal how far the virus has spread through a particular community, and it could potentially reveal whether people who recovered from the virus might be immune to it, at least for a while. That might be very important in terms of thinking about people to relieve overworked health workers or to restart parts of the economy. Turns out the Brits are not the only ones getting ready to deploy antibody testing at large scale. A county in Colorado is going to try antibody testing, that entire county, for free. And it comes out of an unusual set of circumstances in San Miguel County, Colorado. Two biotech executives happen to own a home in the ritzy ski town of Telluride, Colorado, and they've decided to offer antibody testing to all of the roughly 8,000 residents of Telluride and the surrounding county of San Miguel for free. The county now plans on testing everyone, regardless of any symptoms or any known contact with anyone who has the coronavirus. San Miguel County says they've already tested all the first responders in the county and their families. That was 645 tests. Now they're going to start testing everyone else. They're going to roll it out in phases and try to get to every single person in the county. And when you do that, when you approach it that way, when you test an entire community, you end up providing individual people with individually interesting data. People find out if they've got antibodies to the virus, but you may also see things in the data that couldn't have been apparent through any other approach. In Iceland, for example, they've tried large-scale testing in that small island nation. That, thus far, has shown not just who had the virus, so they could be isolated to stop it from spreading any further, but also that Iceland mass testing program showed that half of the people who tested positive were asymptomatic, which ends up being a very piece of information, not just about Iceland, but about this virus. I wonder what this new round of testing in this one county in Colorado will show us about it here. Joining us now is Dr. Deanna Colliker. She's Deputy Medical Officer for San Miguel County, Colorado. She is coordinating this county-wide effort for antibody testing. Dr. Colliker, thanks very much for joining us today. Let me just ask you first if I explained that right or if I got anything wrong about what you guys are doing in San Miguel County.
Hi, Rachel. You got it exactly correct. We are, you covered all the bases, and we're super excited to be able to offer this to the members of our county.
Can you describe for us how the antibody test is administered, how long it takes to get results, how confident you are in the antibody test that you're going to be using?
Sure. The antibody test is specifically a test for IgG antibody, so the type of antibody that is produced usually about 8 to 10 days after infection. This test is a blood test, a serum test, that has a relatively short turnaround time. Less than a couple of days is our plan, and as you said earlier, it really allows us to do mass testing and gives us a better idea of the prevalence of the virus in our county. Currently, we have been able to do some of the nasal swab tests, about 150 in the past few weeks. And 100 of those were done with our state CDPHE, our state public health, facilitated with the National Guard. Unfortunately, out of those 150 tests, we've had one positive but we've only had 24 results. And so the testing, not only has it been unavailable, but it's really been woefully inadequate as far as the time it takes to get those results back. This blood testing, in contrast, we're hoping to be able to test everybody in our county once and then again 14 days later, so that we can really see who has seen the virus, who is has created antibodies and perhaps is immune to it, and who hasn't had any evidence in their bloodstream of having made any antibodies. It's going to help us make some decisions moving forward.
And from what I understand, there's between 8,000 and 9,000 people in the county. I know that you guys do want this to be universal, and it's free to everybody to get tested. But you're asking for two blood tests, right? 14 days apart. And obviously this is unusual. This is not the kind of testing regime that's in place anywhere else in the country. How do people in the county feel about it? Do you think that you are going to get people mostly wanting to participate, or are there people who don't want to be part of it?
You know, I think there probably are opinions all over the map. I do think that our community has definitely stepped up and has been very cooperative in our shelter-in-place orders that we placed last week, and they're observing the social distancing rules that help us to stop or slow the transmission of this virus. And I think people are anxious to have some answers. I think we have not been able to provide them with a good estimation of how much prevalence we have in our county. So I think people will be happy to be able to get that information. I think it's going to allay some fears if we have really a good understanding of how much COVID is here in San Miguel County. And a lot of the responses that I've gotten from people is that they are thankful that we have this opportunity, and they're encouraging, you know, their friends and neighbors to participate, because I really feel like the best information is going to come if everybody really does participate, and it gives us an idea of where we are, and it'll help us, you know, moving forward as we perhaps start to be able to consider loosening some of these restrictions that are there for a very good reason. But once we have some information, some data, I think we can reconsider those at a later date.
Yeah, fascinating, essentially pilot project for the country in a community that is uniquely positioned to be able to do this. Dr. Deanna Colliker, San Miguel County Deputy Medical Officer, thank you so much for your time tonight. Good luck. Keep us apprised as you guys start rolling this out through the rest of the county. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Rachel. We appreciate your time.
All right, we'll have